concrete walls. There's a place for us where we could go, where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. This is very good to be here with you on a Monday evening. No more Buc-ee's today. Instead, I got my Bardwell shirt on. I think this is an FPV Lux shirt. Is this FPV Lux? I think this is a FPV Lux shirt. I had so much fun with that FPV Lux. What do you want to call it? Collaboration. I think I'm going to do another one. Some discussion in the chat about scammers. As a public service announcement, in case you didn't know, and if you did know, bear with me, because somewhere out there's someone who didn't know and can benefit from this. A common scam that's going around right now is to make a fake account named after a popular YouTuber, and it's all over the place. I see it for FPV accounts, but I've seen it for other accounts. It doesn't matter. As long as you have more than a marginal number of subs, they will do it. They make a fake account, so it will be like Joshua Bardwell message me on Telegram is the name of the account. And then they'll like link to a Telegram account that is like at Joshua Bardwell 23791 FPV. Okay? I do, in fact, have a Telegram account. I don't use it for anything official, but either way, you need to like, YouTube is not like just a friendly neighborhood where everybody's looking out for you. There are people there who are scammers who are looking to take your money. And in the same way that if you were walking on the street in Manhattan and someone came up to you and said, hey, want to buy a Rolex? I don't know. Do people still sell Rolexes on the street in Manhattan? That's a trope. And you'd be like, yeah, oh, it's only $50 for a real Rolex. You'd be like, okay, well, pay, they're trying to rip you off. The same thing is happening with these scam accounts. So, like the simplest thing you can do is click through on the account and look at the account. Okay? Don't just get so blinded by the fact that you think you've won a prize. You're like, oh, I won a prize. Oh, Joshua, it's so good to... And I'm not making this up. I have seen people sent me screenshots of the conversation, and they're like, whoa, hey, JB, I'm such a big fan. So happy to have won this prize. It's really neat. I didn't hear you announcing a giveaway or anything, but sometimes they jump on my giveaways. And they fake like they're giving away the prize that I said I was giving away. So then it's even sneakier. They're like, yeah, you won the prize. I've noticed you've been such a big fan of mine. I love that they really play it up. It's a good scam. And then they're like, listen, which of these prizes do you want? And they list like 3 high-dollar items. And then they say, okay, it's just going to be, okay, now how do you want me to ship it to you? For $100, I can do it like 5-day. For $150, I can do it overnight. Your call. How do you want it? And then you send them money, and then obviously it's a ripoff the whole time. So first, I can speak for myself. I only do giveaways via my YouTube comments, and I will always contact you through one of my official email addresses. Okay, so you can see where the email's coming from. I always make a public post on my Facebook page from my verified YouTube account. And I never ask you to pay shipping or any kind of handling fees. I never do that. But lots of people don't know that. So what I would say is, if somebody acts like they're giving you a giveaway, the very first thing you should do is click on their account and look at it. And if it's named Joshua Bardwell FPV, message me on Telegram at Joshua Bardwell 1235. And there are 0 uploads and 0 subscribers. That's not me. It's not whoever you think you're talking to. Okay? Anybody who asks you to send them money in order to win a prize, it's not like 100% guaranteed that's a scam. It's somewhat reasonable to say, look, I'm going to send you the prize, but I want you to pay a handling fee. That is a thing that legitimate giveaways do, although I think in this day and age it's a little irresponsible because it opens people up to scamming. But RIP, my friend in chat, who obviously you can read about it in chat, but I won't embarrass him by calling him out by name. RIP, very sorry to hear that happened to you, bro. Unfortunately, you got taken, and I'm really sorry that happened. It sucks. And it's just an excuse for me to make an announcement about it, so hopefully it's helpful. Welcome to the live stream. We're going to be taking your questions. Oh, there I am. I'm going to be taking your questions here in the chat. We've already got questions coming in. Let's see. You can ask your questions here in the YouTube chat. Not of This World wants to know if I saw the ExpressLRS 100-kilometer range record. I did see that Wesley Vardy posted that. I did see that. He posted that. I have not watched the video yet. Maybe we'll look at it on stream today. I'll be taking questions here in the Discord, like this one from Building with Logan. Building with Logan asks, what are your thoughts on my 3D printed X-Class CAD model I've been working on? Okay. We'll take a look at that. And if you want to make sure that I get your question, you hit the $sign, you leave a super chat like these beautiful people have. And I will be getting those super chats a little later in the stream. But I always but I always try to take some regular questions first. When is your Radio Master Ranger full review? Scott Telkowski. I already reviewed the Radio Master Ranger modules. I'm not sure why I would do a separate review just for the full size. Or did you miss the fact that I reviewed the Ranger already? Maybe you missed it. So before you ask a question like that, always... Oh, by the way, here's a quick update on what I've been watching. Every time I bring up YouTube, you get a glimpse into what I've been watching. Let's see. Lately, I've been watching a shitload of Magnus Meat Boy. Meat Boy? Meat Boy? I'm not sure if that's right. I've been watching a shitload of this guy. Frickin' Norway's best rock climber. I think I'm going to start rock climbing. Probably won't do that. Anyway, that's not the point. I've also been playing some Metal Gear Solid 5. That's what I've been doing lately. Oh, looks like Stu's been posting again, too. Very nice. Okay. We just go Joshua Bardwell, Radio Master Ranger. A little typo there, but sure enough, here is my review of the of the Radio Master Ranger. Bing, bang, bong. There you go. Am I the only one who's been looking at this Magnus Meat Boy content? Meatball? It sounds like meatball, but it's not meatball. Meat boy. I don't know how to pronounce it. Or has YouTube been pushing it to everybody? Has he just blown out? He's broken out. Now YouTube is pushing it. Okay. Is it okay to use something like liquid electrical tape? Not of this world wants to know, is it okay to use something like liquid electrical tape to secure a UFL antenna at the connection? It is okay. I don't know if that's the best adhesive to use, but it is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Yep, it is just fine. I guess it's everybody. He's just broken out. He's really impressive. Watching him climb, it looks so easy watching him climb because he's so strong. And I'm like, it didn't look hard. Yeah, I don't think liquid electrical tape is a great adhesive. It is, that's just not its intent. But I don't have a great suggestion for what else you should try, so I'm going to leave it alone. Is there a way to flash my SPI ExpressLRS receiver to work with the Radio Master Ranger Micro module? Of course. All ExpressLRS works with all ExpressLRS. I assume that the Ranger module has... Yeah, no, the Ranger modules have ExpressLRS 3.0 on them. So that there is no 2.x target for them. Your SPI receiver is probably Betaflight 4.3. So what you need to do is update to Betaflight 4.4, which is out, and that will update your ExpressLRS build to 3.0, and then you will be able to bind to the receiver. So you're good to go there. Okay. Good. Abraham suggests E6000 for UFL connectors. I think that's not bad. E6000 has this tackiness when dried that makes me wonder if it's perfect for that. But I do like the fact that E6000 has a little bit of flex, which means it will hold even if the UFL wiggles a little bit. I wouldn't use hot glue on a video transmitter. I might turn green suggests. Hot glue, as soon as the video transmitter heats up, the hot glue will soften, and that will be a no-go. That'll be a no-go. What I do for my video transmitters is fold the UFL back over the video transmitter by rotating it 180 degrees. If that for some reason didn't work, I would just sort of bend it gently back 180 degrees and then tape it with Kapton tape, and that'll probably hold it. So, Overly Obsessed wants to know. Don't do that. Overly Obsessed wants to know, have you ever tried Chris Rosser's damping grease idea? Overly Obsessed, Chris Rosser's idea about using damping grease absolutely produces results. I don't use it because it is more trouble for me than it's worth. I would rather just use a frame that doesn't need the damping grease than have to put this nasty, tacky, sticky, pain-in-the-ass damping grease on all my builds. But it does work, and it can produce dramatic results. FPV Magic wants to know. Is ExpressLRS going to be able to use S-Bus? Damn it. Why would you not wrap the message? For real, though? I just updated this chat overlay. Why would you not wrap the message, you stupid? Why is the message not wrapped? That's dumb. Why? That's dumb. That's got to be a bug. That's a shame. Is ExpressLRS going to be able to use S-Bus? We had troubles with it because they didn't support it. We got it to work somehow. Are they going to add full support? No, they are not going to add S-Bus support. However, they do have inverted support, which sometimes works. So hang on, let me just pick a random receiver. So here in the receiver options, this option, receiver invert TX, this causes it to output inverted crossfire. If you then wire that to the S-Bus pad of an F4 flight controller and set the receiver protocol to crossfire, it will work. But if you legitimately have... that's not my binding phrase. That's funny. I was setting up somebody's equipment the other day, and his binding phrase was not crossfire. And so that's why that's there. That's not my binding phrase, though. My Wi-Fi password, however, is... Oh, I shouldn't tell you what my Wi-Fi password is. Never mind. If you have an actual device that needs an actual S-Bus signal, then ExpressLRS can't do it. You'd need a Crossfire to ExpressLRS converter, which does exist. I'm sorry, Crossfire to S-Bus converter, which does exist. But if you have a flight controller with an S-Bus input, this option will cause it to work. It'll send inverted Crossfire, which will work with the S-Bus input. Oops, there we go. Let me take a couple of super chats now. Dang it. There we go. And I'm trying a new feature of my chat plugin, which lets me queue up messages. Oh, dagnabbit. It doesn't work. Next in queue. Show only queued. Why? Oh, because of this. Oh, no, it's because of that. Yes, it worked. Oh, that's so good. Show only queued messages. So, here we go. That's great. We got a super chat here from Kevin James. Small drones equals tiny pads. Do you use a magnifying glass? I don't, but I should. As I get older and my close-up eyesight gets worse and worse, I find myself soldering like this. And as you know, it is recommended when soldering to remove your protective eyewear and hold the soldering iron and the solder joint as close to your eye as possible. That is actually how NASA tells you to do it. And sometimes I find myself and I like, wait, you dumbass, don't do that. So I should get a magnifying glass. What I would get if we're going to get one is one of the swing arm ones like this that can just swing into position. You can get magnifying glasses that go over that you wear like sunglasses, basically. You can get jeweler's loops. That works too, I guess. But yeah, that's totally a thing, and you should totally do it. Okay. Don't be ashamed. As you get older, especially, but for very small joints, professionals just use magnifying glasses. There's nothing wrong with it. My bind phrase is not Crossfire sucks. Yeah, for example, you could choose one of these. Now, I don't use this because I think I would look like a nerd. I would use a swing arm one mounted on the desk, but that is a thing that you could do. God forbid I look like a nerd. Next up. Okay, if I go like this, is it gonna stop it? If I go like that, is it gonna clear the queue? Do I have to control click to clear the queue? I do. Okay, next up. Ratatat RC Flyer, thank you for a $2 super chat. Just a thanks. Is that it? Thank you. Thank you for the donation. Very much appreciate it. Just like that. Okay. Edwin Ramirez, thank you for a $5 super chat. Wanted to know how to get camera control working on the new 4.4 Bradaflight with the Brain FPV Radix 2 flight controller. Well, step one, does the Brain FPV Radix 2... Oh, sorry, hold on. The Brain FPV Radix does not run the standard Betaflight targets. Has Brain FPV released a Betaflight 4.4 target yet for their flight controllers? Radix 2, firmware Betaflight, select a version. No. So Brain FPV has not yet released a 4.4 build for the Radix 2. Therefore, there's nothing you can do. Brain FPV has custom hardware on their flight controllers that is not part of the Betaflight code base. So you have to get the firmware from them. And what that means is that their release of a Betaflight version is usually delayed by some amount of time, because they have to update the code and build the code for their own flight controllers. I wonder how that's going to change now that cloud build is a thing. I guess they're just going to decide what to put in and what to leave out. Don't know. So you can't do it, is the answer. You can't put Betaflight 4.4 on the Radix 2 at all, as far as I can tell. Am I wrong about this? Has this changed? Has anything changed about this? I don't think so. Tell me in the chat if it has. Uh-oh. Did I lose one? Azelic. Oh, okay. Here we go. Next question is from Azelic. Dadgummit! It didn't used to do this. It used to word wrap them. This is so frustrating. It used to word wrap them, and now it doesn't. That's what I get for updating. Dagnummit. Hey, Joshua, do you think it's worth it to get a dead cat geometry frame like the Nazgul Evoke F5D2 for Freestyle, or just get the X-frame version and deal with props in view? If your concern is Freestyle, then yeah, just get the X geometry all the way. Dead cat is going to be a little bit worse at Freestyle and acrobatics, but props out of view. So. Okay, so then I click it to clear it, and I control click it to remove it from the queue. Yeah, okay. Barry Daliv, what's your... Thank you, Barry, for a $10 super chat. What is your favorite 3-inch Freestyle frame? For 3-inch Freestyle, I would get a toothpick. So it would be the baby tooth. You may not have meant that. You may have meant something like let's see. Do I have a 3-inch over here? This is my website, fpvknowitall.com. And if you go to the Ultimate FPV shopping list, let's look at the sub 250 gram page. I think most of the stuff here is 3.5 inch. So my actual answer is I really prefer 3.5 inch to 3 inch. I think it has better flight characteristics. If you insist on a 3 inch, check out the Avant quads. Ooh, that's a typo. Avant quads. It's Avant quads. And I even talk about my struggle there a little bit. I struggled to find a great 3 inch bind and fly. Most of the big manufacturers are switching to a 3.5. Avant quads 3 inch Avio is a pretty good. But I would probably recommend a 3.5 inch like the Smart 3.5 or the Baby Hawk. We got a question here from no, that's not the right question. That's not a super chat. What's your thoughts? Oh, Building with Logan. No, it's not a super chat, but I did flag it. Building with Logan says, what's your thoughts on my 3D printed X-Class frame, X-Class CAD model that I've been working on? Let's take a look at this. Where is it? Where is it? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? I've lost it. It was in the Discord. I know it was in the Discord. It's gone. Where did it go? Did you delete the message? Where did it go? Okay, well, there it is. Building with Logan, thank you. 3D printed frame. Oh, I see. It's not 3D printed frame. So what I think you've got here are 3D printed motor mounts connected to like wooden boom arms. This is interesting. The big problem with this type of thing is resonance issues. Resonance and vibration and flex. The props are 3D printed. Okay, that's going to be a disaster. Unless you're doing, if you're doing like FDM process, that's going to be a real interesting. I would like to see video of your first flight. Let's just put it that way. It's possible that this could work okay, depending on how stiff the arms are and how much problems you have with resonance. It's possible. I mean, it's not going to survive a crash, but an X-Class doesn't really survive a crash anyway. If you have FDM props, I think it's unlikely that they will survive the stress. However, they're relatively low KV, so I don't know, maybe. I strongly recommend that the first time you do a test flight that you have a camera rolling, okay? Because it could be really interesting. And by interesting, I mean disastrous. So you're not going to want to, you're going to want to. Oh, he's got a video. Shut up. Shut up.
Okay, proof of...
Shut up. Oh, shut up. Is this a 3D printed prop? What process did you use to print it?
Okay, proof of concept with a single battery as opposed to all four.
That sounds pretty sketchy. FDM, shut up.
Okay, I guess it works.
I mean, it hasn't blown up yet. I'll say that much. That's really interesting. I'd love to know more about that. That's fascinating. That's you. So I know of one other case where someone 3D printed a prop, and it was a little 3-inch prop printed out of TPU, and it was flexible, but when it was spinning, the combination of the centrifugal force or whatever was enough to make it get lift, and it did work. And the flexibleness meant that it didn't have problems with sort of shaking itself to death. That's pretty impressive. That sounded very vibraty, as Tim Z points out. That did not, if that was a factory-made prop, I would be like, what's wrong with that prop? The sort of lower harmonics. I don't know. I'd be worried about those props exploding. Let's see here. What else are we missing? We got more super chats. Let's see. Doug McLeod. No. Dang it, Doug. Your message has gone. Too many super chats have come by and I've lost them. Hang on, let me queue these up. Ooh, they're going by too fast. Wait a minute. What's going on here? Why are none of these super chats showing up? Oh, dang it. And this plugin has really gotten messed up. Oh, now we don't get... oh, I have show only queue turned on. Okay, that's my bad. That's user error. Okay, we're going to queue that one. Edwin Ramirez, we're going to queue you. Joey Whittaker. Going to queue you. Blue Man Boz. Not sure about that. Oh, I see. Now we're off the bottom. Okay. Alan Rugg. No, Doug McLeod. Doug McLeod, thanks for $5 Canadian. Why do digital goggles always have 4 antennas? Doug, they don't have to. It just they've been designed to benefit from the additional radios. They could have 6. They could have 8. It's just a question of cost versus benefit. When you go from 2 antennas to 4, you can get a big improvement in signal to noise ratio and range for simply doubling the cost of your radio chain. When you go from 4 antennas to 6 or 8, the benefit is more marginal and has been deemed not worth it. That's the short version. 4 is a sweet spot for price versus performance. Alan Rugg, thank you for a $5 super chat. I got the new HD Zeros coming. Thanks for the review and the speechless demo of the 90 FPS camera. Have you had time to test them anymore? Would you add anything to the review that you didn't? No, I have continued to use the HD Zero goggles for HD Zero, obviously. Not Walk Snail. I use the Dominators for Walk Snail just because it's more... I mean, I already own them, so I might as well use them, right? And for analog, they are now basically my #1 analog goggle. The DVR is so good, and I love the built-in microphone. But I have nothing to add to the review. It's still great. I'm looking forward to doing a little more testing of the range, of the effective range. I've done range tests on it before, but I want to test more like the actual range as I use it. Because that 90 FPS camera was really damn impressive, but it's got to be able to deliver the range, and I wasn't really pushing the range in that test. I actually just got in the mail the other day some HD0 Freestyle VTXs that I'm going to be putting into one of my perfect Freestyle builds. Blue Man Boss, thanks for 5,000 CLP. Would you recommend mounting the O3 with longer screws on the original Phillips screw holes? I don't know. I think there's an aspect of this question I'm missing. Do you mean take out the frames, the screws that hold the thing together and replace them with long screws that go through the whole thing? I don't think I would love to mount my VTX with screws. I know I have done that in the past. I think that transmits a lot of stress to the VTX as the frame flexes, which is not ideal. VTXs usually are not soft mounted. Now, it's one thing if you have a VTX where the screws go into like a mounting plate that is not touching the electronics. That's a little better. But I really have settled on mounting most of my VTXs with tape and zip ties these days. Good double-sided tape and either some electrical tape around it or a zip tie, and I think that's a good way to do it. Gonza FPV. Let's see, have I caught up with my cues yet? Yeah. Gonza FPV says, I have a problem in Betaflight. My 3D quad model moves like 1 degree of heading every 3 seconds. That's normal and you can ignore it. On the yaw axis, if it just drifts a tiny bit, I don't actually even know what causes it. Lots of flight controllers do that. It's completely healthy and unremarkable and does not cause any effect in flight, you can ignore it. You don't need to worry about it. Edwin Ramirez points out that Brain FPV, thank you for a $5 super chat, Edwin, also. They have a release candidate for 4.4. So, Edwin, the question that I would have then is, were they able to get all of Betaflight 4.4 onto their MCU? Some targets need to have parts of Betaflight removed to fit onto some MCUs. Now, I don't know whether that's the case for the flight controllers being used by Brain FPV, especially because Brain FPV has additional code that they've added to support their custom OSD and so forth. But what I would wonder if camera control is like not working or missing, is it just missing? I wonder if they removed that to make their target fit. And the only one who knows the answer to that is Brain FPV. I have to say, this is a reason why some people would choose to stay away from any manufacturer who uses a non-standard target. Brain FPV does that. Newbie Drone does that. They have a custom OSD firmware, and they don't use a standard target. You can only get the firmware from Newbie Drone. That's not inherently a deal breaker, and I'm not criticizing these companies for doing that. They saw an opportunity to make a difference in the design of their flight controller, and the only way they could do that was by having a custom target. And so they bit the bullet. They said, we're going to do that. We're not going to let the fact that the Betaflight devs haven't chosen to do this thing stop us from doing it. That's the beauty of open source. But the downside of that is that in a situation like this, the only way to get answers is to go back to them and ask them. And you can't rely on the Betaflight developers to, go, who might be, well, there's more than one of them. Then again, a company might be more interested in answering your questions than some random open source developers. So it could go both ways. But I would ask them if they have camera control in that target. That would be the first thing I would do. Joey Whitaker said, thank you for $5, Joey. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay. Okay. All righty. Use Joey, how can they do a custom define in expert mode? They're not flashing through the cloud configurator, are they? Does Betaflight 4.4 have I'm sorry, hang on. Does Betaflight 4.4 have support for the Brain FPV Radix in the configurator? That would be definitely newsworthy. No. No. Okay, no. That's a no. So nobody is building Brain FPV Radix targets except Brain FPV. And there's no way to know what they built into the target except by asking them. Hold on. I see what Dominic Clifton is saying. Dominic Clifton is saying that the camera control define is not in the target.h file. Oh, Dominic Clifton, smart cookie. Dominic went to the Brain FPV Radix repo and found the target.h file for the Radix 2 and found that the camera control define was not here, and concluded that camera control is not built into this board, and therefore camera control cannot be used with this board. And that is the answer. Well done, and thank you for helping there, Dominic. Okay, we got some more super chats coming in. I'm going to take a few more questions from the regular chat and the Discord before I go back to relentlessly answering super chats, but I always want to make some time for everybody, not just the people who are paying. So Brain FPV would need to recompile that for the Radix 2 in order to make that work. Fishy wants to know, is it viable to flash a BL32 ESC to AM32? Yes. However, you need a programming adapter, and you need to, like, literally flash the MCU itself. You can't do it through, like, Betaflight pass-through. Because BL32 ESCs are locked and will not let themselves be flashed via the normal means. But you can flash the MCU directly, but you need a programming adapter that you probably don't have. And the process of flashing it requires, like, jumpering to tiny little pins and is a pain in the ass. I apologize if any details of that were wrong. I interviewed Pete Smits, the developer of AM32, probably 2 years ago. And I remember taking away from that discussion that flashing BL32 was possible but difficult for an average person. That's the takeaway. For somebody like Pete, who develops ESCs and flashes MCUs all the time, it was no big deal. So if you want AM32, you should buy an ESC with AM32 already on it. That's the easiest and most feasible approach for most people. Tim Z wants to know, take some questions from the Discord here. Is it possible... This lack of word wrap is driving me crazy. It's driving me crazy. It's driving me crazy. Is there no frickin' way to do this? What's going on here? What's going on here, Social Stream Ninja? No, you got nothing for me, huh? What are you doing, Social Stream Ninja? What are you doing? If I do that, why would you not word wrap it? Why would you not word wrap it? Why would you not word wrap it? Oh. Oh. It is. Oh, hang on. Bear with me here for a second, chat. A little technical situation here. Is it the scale equals 0.5 that's screwing me up? Okay. Oh. Oh. Okay, thank you. Sorry, chat. Is it possible to use a UART dedicated to S-Bus at all for non-S-Bus things? Not on an F4 flight controller. The S-Bus pad on an F4 flight controller has an inverter on it, and in almost every case, not every case, but in almost every case, that means that it's not usable for other things. Eirik Toft says, be nice to the developers, man. Yeah, as usual, Eirik, the problem that I was blaming on developers was actually user error. So you as a developer can enjoy that one. The S-Bus pad can be used for ExpressLRS if you're willing to give up telemetry. That is a thing that you could do. Okay. Let's get some chats. We took some chats from the Discord. Let's get some chats from the YouTube chat. Just the regular old folks hanging out in the YouTube chat. Is there a way to send you a picture along with the question? asks Steve Belogan. Not on YouTube. YouTube, I have basically all URLs moderated just to keep scammers out. The easiest way to send a question, Steve, would be, I guess, you could email. Maybe. That's about right. That's about right. Let's see here. Tom wants to know. Tom, I think this is a great idea. Tom wants to know, would it be possible to add latency to a USB input for a sim to simulate the increased latency of the air unit or possibly make it variable? I've often thought it would be fun to use a simulator to test the effect of latency. To have the simulator able to add a fixed or variable amount of latency and then try to figure out when people could tell the difference and notice it. I feel like that is possible, but I don't know who's going to do it. Black Jungle, that was me. I accidentally clicked a button that I shouldn't have clicked. Please ignore that beep. That beep doesn't mean anything. Mix it up a little, asks, I plan on getting the Baby Ape 3. Any tips? Yeah, get the Pro version with the upgraded camera. PCCBWO says control latency is different from visual latency. Prove it. Prove it. I mean that. Wait, let me try that with a less angry tone. Prove it. I want to know. I don't think so. I don't think that there's a difference because what you've got is a control loop. I move the control stick. There is a loop whereby the movement of that affects the movement of the quad, but I have no idea what the quad is doing until the visual response from the camera gets back to my eyes. And I don't think a latency at any part of that loop matters. Because I can't tell. Oh, I'm trying to tuck myself out of it now. I can't tell what I did, the effect of what I did, until I see the response come back. So if I move the stick, and that takes 1/4 of a second to get to the quad, and 1/millionth of a second to get back to my eyes, I don't think there's any difference between if that takes 1/millionth of a second to get to the quad and then 1/4 of a second to get back to my eyes. Either way, by the time I see the effect that my action has had, the same amount of time has passed and the quad is in the same place. For FPV, I don't think there's any difference between control latency and video link latency. I should just start playing the USB unplugged sound over my live stream. So here's the thing, PCCBWO. If you have data, if you have a study, actual data that shows that in a FPV-like control loop, could be an FPS game, anything where you're moving a control and then seeing a response. If you can show me that there's a difference between control latency and visual latency, I would be interested to learn more about that. At this time, I am skeptical of that claim. Okay. Let's take a look. Do you think it's worth it to add a rapid fire module to scout box goggles, or just save up and get a better set? Asks DDBX3. The scout box goggles don't even have a module bay, do they? Am I wrong about that? Maybe. I don't think so. So I would just save up and get a better set. Just get a better set. Let's take a look at this 100 kilometers. I saw this on YouTube this morning, but I didn't get a chance to watch it. And I'm not going to just watch Wes's whole video and ruin his analytics, but I haven't gotten a chance to watch it, so let's watch a little bit of it together. 100 kilometers.
A few of the things that well and truly just...
Wesley Vardy, please don't copy strike me. And also, I'm going to assume that your music is safe to use. Are you monetized? Is he monetized? I can't tell if he's monetized. If I play his music, am I going to get... Oh, well, I guess I'll take my chances.
Hey guys, what's going on? ExpressLRS has seen a significant increase in popularity over the past year, which is no surprise given the huge amount of groundbreaking features that have been developed in such a short time frame. Things like Deja Vu Diversity Aid, or DVDA for short, as well as the long-time subscribers to the channel may remember my attempts at this with the MFE Believer. The Believer is an outstanding plane with big potential to hit some really impressive flight times and distances, so when I built one up 12 months ago, I had high hopes that this...
Whoa. Whoa, look at what this guy's doing. Is that diversity, or does that rotate around? He's got a backwards facing helical antenna for his video link. So it's always shooting back at him.
Some really impressive flight times and distances.
That's really cool.
So when I built one up 12 months ago...
That's really cool. It would be extra cool. No, it's on a servo. Oh, I can see it now. It flips around. He's got a antenna on his plane that points home. That's pro level.
I had high hopes that this would be the plane to take me out to my goal of 100 kilometers. Unfortunately, things didn't really go to plan, and on my second tuning flight, the plane entered into an unrecoverable death spiral, and, well, the ground's kind of hard when you hit it headfirst at 200 kilometers an hour. Rather than let that fail...
Oh, that sucks. All right, again, I don't want to just watch the whole video and ruin his analytics. You guys should absolutely go watch this video if you would like to know more about it. Video link setup. Ooh, using the Foxeer Reaper. Very cool.
An 8 gig video.
Very cool.
Foxeer has conveniently sent me out their Reaper Extreme 2.5 watt VTX for testing, which seems to mostly live up to...
Oh, little bit of jello in that B-roll. He had stabilization on his camera.
Foxeer has conveniently sent me out their Reaper Extreme 2.5 watt VTX.
Yeah, you see that jello? That's stabilization in the camera. I wonder what camera
for testing, which seems to mostly
right there.
Live up to the marketed power output in my bench results, so it seems like a good candidate for the job. I've got the VTX mounted up outside the fuselage here to give the best cooling possible, and I've got that paired with a 5.8 gig True RC
Whoa, so he's not using a high gain antenna on the airplane here.
Singularity antenna. On the ground side, I've taken my trademark phrase dinner plate to a whole new level with a 650mm parabolic.
You ain't wearing that on your head, baby. It's a big antenna. Hey, putting that on your goggles. People are like, 5.8 gigahertz can't go long range. Like, well, I mean, it can. If you have a giant 18-inch dish.
Parabolic dish antenna and a True RC sniper acting as the 5.8 gig feed.
Oh, this is a homemade. Whoa. He's just built his own parabolic antenna with a reflector. Wow. Wesley Vardy. Whoa, wow. I am really impressed.
According to the specs online, the dish should have a gain of about 30 dB, which should hopefully give...
Whoa, do you see the beam width there? 5.6 degrees.
Specs online, the dish should have a gain...
This is why we don't all use 30 dB antennas. The gain is good, but a 6-degree antenna arc, not good.
Of about 30 dB, which should hopefully give us a chance of getting that 5 to select for the release of the 2-watt hinges. We went with diversity dipole and a true hardware...
Again, we're skipping ahead a little bit. ExpressLRS link setup. Surely he's using the Ranger at 2 watts.
Viable at high power outputs, and with the release of the 2-watt capable Ranger module from Radio Master, it was a no-brainer choice. For the second TX module in Jai's handset, we won't have a need for all-out power since the plane will be circling directly overhead, so we went with the Radio Master micro module. For the RX in the plane, I chose the Maytech R24D diversity receiver for the 100 milliwatts of telemetry power.
Because he wants the telemetry power for long range.
And I've coupled that with a beta FPV dipole.
A beta FPV dipole? All this work, Wesley, and you're going to use a beta FPV dipole. You're going to... Man likes to live on the edge. And then my plane crashed into the ocean.
And a True RC 2.4 gig Bardwell. The rest
Ooh, Bardwell. Those are not named after me, for those who are
of
wondering.
the build components are pretty
Wesley's
standard
here.
stuff, but I'll put a full hardware list down into the video description if you want any more specific details. With the plane fully built and the flight ourselves.
All right, so suffice it to say, I don't think I'm spoiling the video. Obviously, he got 100 kilometers. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to skip the background stuff. He's going to do a handover. Wait a minute. Did he go 100 kilometers or did he go 50 kilometers and hand over to a different pilot? That's a different claim. Jump to 13 minutes, he says. Okay. He went the full distance, says Eirik Toft. Okay.
Well,
Oh, I think Wesley, again, in my desire to not ruin your whole video and spend 30 minutes of my live stream watching your content. Out of respect for your content, I'm also missing some technical details, so I apologize if I sound a little out of touch. I'm guessing that what you did is you didn't have the battery to go 100 kilometers, but you wanted to test the link. So you flew 100 kilometers and then you handed off to Jai, who landed it locally, rather than having to fly it back home again. Okay, that explains it to me.
Jai and Sandra were taking their sweet-ass time at McDonald's buying coffee and hash browns. The plane was making great 83 kilometers now, and things are starting to get a little bit dicey. I was skeptical that the 5.8 gig video would hold up all the way to 100 kilometers, and unfortunately it seems like that skepticism has been realized here as we pass the 80k mark. I've done my best to screw around with the position of the dish to find a better signal, but unfortunately it doesn't seem to be helping this time. To make matters worse, we seem to have hit a hotspot for local RF interference here, because the signal to noise ratio has plummeted into negative values, which is starting to have an impact on link quality. Cue the suspense music.
SNR. Notice that SNR was negative at points. ExpressLRS and other LoRa devices can operate with negative SNR. Fortunately, he's flying autonomously and it essentially doesn't need the video except to monitor the flight.
With the video gone, I decided to switch over to Mission Planner so we could keep an eye on the plane's live location on the map and make sure we were still on course to hit our planned waypoints. ExpressLRS doesn't have native Mavlink support yet, so these GPS updates are coming from an ESP32 inside my TX16S, which is converting CRSF to Mavlink for...
Naturally, I mean, obviously it's got an ESP32 inside his TX16S, which is converting Mavlink into, yeah, you guys
GPS messages and streaming it to Mission Planner via Bluetooth. It's a bit janky and I haven't implemented the full set of telemetry messages in the converter, but it's definitely getting the job done here to keep us updated on the mission progress in the absence of a video feed. Or at least it was, sideways until things took a turn for the worse and we started to drop telemetry.
Uh-oh. Now you've just got a plane in the air.
With both the video and telemetry gone, we now have absolutely no way to track the position of the plane and no...
And this is the part where the FAA loses their goddamn mind, except this is not being done in the United States. So, the CAA, whatever. We have a plane in the air with no way to track it. Yeah, welcome to FAA Fineland.
Idea how the link quality is looking. This is basically the worst case situation at the moment because it means we're flying completely blind. And then all of a sudden, our luck turned around. Jai and Sandro arrive on site at the landing zone and switch on their goggles and immediately get a crystal clear feed from the plane. We all jump into a voice call along with the rest of the devs, which marks the very first ExpressLRS dev meeting that we've ever had. And at that moment, it suddenly became one of the best experiences I've ever had whilst flying long range. Everyone was working together as a team to complete the final leg of the flight. We had Jai and Sandro relaying stats from the video feed, we had the boys in the dev call helping out with the ground control location data via the live stream, and finally we had myself doing my best to maintain the ExpressLRS link and telemetry, which had surprisingly started to come good, and LQ was bouncing around 100 once again. And just when I thought things couldn't get any better, we realised that we were about to hit our milestone.
You want call outs? We're at 99.5, 99.7, 99.8, 99.9. Let's go do it. 100. Woo! All right. Go team. Yeah, let's see it.
The excitement didn't end there though, because with the RF interference somewhat behind us, we started to get regular telemetry packets through again, which is pretty mind-blowing given the RX only has a 100 milliwatt power output for telemetry. With the Ranger now sitting on 2 watts with dynamic power, we also had LQ bouncing off 100 again, and to top it all off, we also started to get some fuzzy video coming through.
Can you see anything at all, Wes, or is it just static for you?
I'm just checking. It's gonna just be static for me. Oh, I can see it. I can see it.
Lol.
Oh yeah, it's popping in.
It came through for a second.
Yeah, no, it's I can fully see. It's impressive that 5.8 can do that.
It was far from being a solid feed, but it was pretty damn impressive to see brief patches of flyable 5.8.
Alrighty, that's really impressive. Massive congratulations to Wesley and the entire ExpressLRS team. To be at 100 plus kilometers and 100 LQ, anybody who says 2.4 gigahertz can't do long range is clearly wrong. That's not to say that there are no advantages to lower frequencies, but clearly for most of the types of flying that most people are going to be doing, 2.4 gigahertz is sufficient. And if you're not getting the penetration and range you need out of 2.4 gigahertz ExpressLRS, either you are a truly exceptional situation or, there's just other changes that could be made to get there. Really, really impressive. Really impressive work. Phenomenal work to the ExpressLRS team. Amazing. Really amazing. Eirik Toft says, I know I've never seen a Crossfire video taking something to 100 kilometers. Eirik, there's no doubt. So I wouldn't be surprised to learn that Trappy, the TBS team, or somebody else had taken Crossfire out past 100 kilometers. I would bet money that they had. I can't name that incident off the top of my head. It may be a case where that's the kind of thing that is actually fairly mundane for Crossfire. There's no doubt that 900 megahertz can go at least that long, and all else being equal can go further than 2.4 gigahertz. Of course, all else is not always equal. Crossfire could probably do it at 1 watt, whereas ExpressLRS did it at 2 watts. There's differences there. There's no question that Crossfire is an absolutely capable long-range protocol, and that the advantage of 900 megahertz is substantial. Not that ExpressLRS doesn't have some advantages too, but it is inspiring to see these guys doing work like this. It's amazing. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Okay. Let's go back to get some of these super chats. We've got some super chats queued up. Actually, it seems like the super chats have stopped coming in. I'm going to get these super chats, and then we're going to see if somehow they have stopped coming in somehow. And the first question is going to be from Jordan Guzman. Thank you for a $10 super chat, Jordan Guzman. I have no stick inputs in Betaflight 4.4. It's a SpeedyBee F7 V3 receiver, Crossfire Nano RX, Tango 2, and TX16S. The receiver is connected to both radios, but no stick inputs. Jordan, this is a kind of problem that's difficult to sort out on a live stream because it requires a lot of back and forth, where I ask you, okay, well, where did you connect the receiver? Can I see your ports tab? Can we check your receiver configuration, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? That's really impossible to do on a live stream without... I've often thought about doing like a call-in show where people call in and I try to solve their problems for them. The problem with that is you kind of need a producer to screen the calls so that you could, they could make sure that everybody was ready to go and we had a kind of a lively stream without a lot of downtime. I did it once a long, long time ago, and it was really fun. I don't know. Maybe I'll do it again. In the meantime, Jordan, check your ports tab. On the SpeedyBee flight controller, I'm pretty sure the default UART is UART 2 for the receiver. So UART 2 probably should have Serial RX enabled. With the Crossfire Nano RX, make sure that TX goes to RX on the flight controller and RX goes to TX. In other words, double check the wiring diagram and make sure your wiring matches. Those are the basic things to check. And then, by all means, email me, jb@joshuabardwell.com, and let's discuss it in more one-on-one format. Thank you for your donation. Quad City Bay Area is looking for a durable tiny whoop. The Mobilite 7 is so fragile. If the Mobilite is too fragile, then the next one up is the Mobula, right? All tiny whoops are only durable to a certain point. But I would think the Mobula 6 or the Mobula 7 would be a good choice. Again, if we go to my website, fpvknowitall.com, there is a page there for tiny whoop parts. This is, by the way, for those of you who are saying tiny whoops, what the hell does Bardwell know about tiny whoops? This is actually curated by Ciati FPV, who knows a damn lot. You hire people who do, and that's my philosophy. So if we look, we got a 75 millimeter build here. Ciati recommends starting with the Happy Model Mobula 7. And then if you want to upgrade the motors, he's got suggestions there for upgrades. But he thinks the Mobula frame is fairly durable. And he recommends the Mob 7 as a starting point for that build. The Fractal 75, is that durable though? Is that durable? I mean, Fractal builds damn good quads, but I have the impression that Fractal builds high-performance, lightweight quads. Can anyone speak to their durability? Regardless, it's a damn good build. Like, my impression is that this style of tiny whoop build is compromising a lot in terms of crashability, in terms to get able to get the lowest possible weight. Ciati is here. People are saying they're very durable. If you feel like building something like the Fractal 75, by all means. I want to try a Fractal 75. Should I? I already have like 3 quadcopters I've bought with the intent of reviewing them that I haven't gotten to. Because I don't know what my problem is. I'm just very, very busy. Can I buy the Fractal 75 bind and flight? People were talking to me. Somebody made a video showing how good a 75 millimeter flies. Because once upon a time, I criticized 75 millimeter, saying I would probably rather fly basically a 65 or like a 95. That I was like, nah, I don't know about 75s. And somebody made a really funny video. I actually really liked the video. I was like, hey, Bardwell, here's what you can do with a 75 millimeter. If I could remember the URL or if I could get a link to it, I would show it to you right now, but I can't off the top of my head. And and then I was like, oh, yeah? No, 75 millimeter sucks. Because I thought he was kind of trolling me. And then he thought I was trolling him, except I think he didn't realize I was joking. And then we kind of got into a little bit of an argument. And then we had to be like, hey, whoa, we cool? I think we're cool now. But I was like, no, fly what you want to fly. I just thought we were having fun. But people were like, if you think 75 millimeter sucks, you haven't flown the Fractal 75. Should I get the Diamond or the ELRS F4? Ciati, what should I get? It was Tyrant FPV. Was that it? I'll pull it up. I won't play the music. Was it Tyrant FPV? I don't. It must have been on YouTube. I mean, on Facebook. I don't see it on his YouTube. Very risky going to Facebook on a live stream. Who knows what will pop up. Tyrant FPV? I don't think that was this guy. I don't think it was this guy. Was it this guy? Help me. Help me, chat. Help me find who this was. Ciati hates the Diamond AIO. Well, I can't find who this person was. Unfortunately. Not off the top of my head. I would say the Mobula 7 is probably the safest choice. Quad City Bay Area. Would you upgrade to 03 for Freestyle or 90 FPS HD0? Gregory Carr, the flight feel of the 90 FPS HD0 camera is unparalleled. If you care at all about performance flying and you have the opportunity to try the 90 FPS camera, you have to do it. Now, I'm not saying that it will make you switch. I'm saying, like, think about it this way. If you have the opportunity to eat at a how many Michelin stars are there? 3 stars? 4 stars? If you have the opportunity to eat at even a 1-star Michelin star restaurant in your life, you should take it, right? I don't know if everyone here is familiar with Michelin stars. They're very, very prestigious. Only like even a 1-star Michelin star restaurant is going to be the best dining experience you've ever had in your life, unless you regularly eat at Michelin star restaurants. And any restaurant with more than 1 Michelin star is just world class. Okay. So like a dinner at a Michelin star restaurant might be $500 a plate or $200 a plate. Like you might not be able to afford it, but it's like, if you're ever like, hey, so-and-so wants to take us to a Michelin star restaurant, but I was really thinking about watching the game that day, or I don't know if I'm really tired. No, shut up, go, right? Well, it's a 1 Michelin star restaurant, but it's sushi, and I really hate sushi. I don't hate sushi, but go with it. No, just go. Just shut up, go. And that's what the HD0 90 FPS camera is like. It is a genre-changing experience that maybe you'll have that experience and go, no, it's not really for me. But you owe it to yourself to give yourself the opportunity to experience it. And maybe you'll be like, oh my God. And then you'll be glad you did it. And the chance that you'll be like, oh my God. See, there's a lot of stuff out there that, like, I'm like, yeah, maybe you like it, maybe you don't. But it's not like it's going to completely change your perspective. It's just not going to do that. Flying the 03 air unit at 4K, or 1080p, rather, 1080p. Like, oh, that's really a special experience. But you could kind of have that experience by looking at a YouTube video and going, oh, okay, yeah, it looks pretty good. It's not exactly the same as flying it. But you cannot have the experience of flying a 90 FPS camera with 14 milliseconds of latency just by watching a YouTube video. The only way to have that experience is to hold the controller in your hands and fly the quad yourself. And so, I'm not saying you should spend $500 on the HD0 goggles and $100 on whatever the camera costs, the video transmitter, just to have that experience, only to find out, it wasn't for me. But I am saying that if you're at an event, if you have a friend, if there's anybody within a 60-mile radius of where you live who has that equipment, buy them lunch. Beg to borrow it and let you take a pack on it, because it's really something. Now, having said all that, the hesitation that I would have is 100% the resolution and image quality is way less than DJI. But I flew analog for a long time and I got things done. I would tolerate the 540p resolution, which I still think is better than most analog quads that I flew, because I would feel like the improvement in control and connectedness that I got from the frame rate and the latency offset the difference in resolution. Maybe. Except if I was like flying in a really scraggly area, not being able to see the branches might really piss me off and I might miss DJI. See, these are the things that I still don't know. The durability of the HD0 gear, for whatever it is, it's not as good as DJI, and I'm not sure if I would start to be annoyed at how many VTXs I was breaking. Don't know. That's an unknown. And the range and penetration of the system is worse than DJI, and I'm not sure how much that would really annoy me in the real world. Those are the things that I still sort of want to figure out. But the experience of flying that camera was so eye-opening to me that I definitely am putting it in at least one of my perfect freestyle build and going to be taking it out and using it. And then I'll either go, yeah, this was great, or I'll go, no, it turns out the downsides were offset the good stuff. I don't know yet, but I definitely am going to be giving it a chance. Up till now, I never put HD0 in one of like my main quads, except for Tiny Whoops. Tiny Whoops, HD0, fantastic. Love it. Best thing going. But for a 5-inch, nah. I'm just not going to do it. But now that has changed for sure. Ooh, we got a hot conversation going on in the chat. Okay. Thank you, Gregory Carr, for that question. Oh, so would you upgrade to 03 for freestyle? I think that the dynamic range and latency of the 03 air unit mean I would take a Vista over the 03 for freestyle because the better low light sensitivity, better dynamic range. I think that the 03 looks very good when you first see it. It's very impressive. And the more I fly it, the more annoyed I am at the dynamic range and the dark shadows and the poor exposure handling. There's actually a firmware update I haven't tried yet. I've just been too busy to try it. That supposedly makes it better, but I'm a little skeptical as to how good it's going to be. Many people have switched. Vanover flies the 03 on all his freestyle rigs and it doesn't seem like it's holding him back. But I think I would probably stick with the Vista. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question or at least gives some perspective. Glitch Unicorn, thanks for a $5 super chat. Does the 03 air unit OSD work with KISS like it does with Betaflight? I am 99% sure the answer is yes. Discord? Chat? The thing is, the development on KISS is moving fast. So I don't know whether you're asking about KISS Ultra or FETTech. And I know the development is moving fast, and I don't keep up with KISS development like I do with Betaflight development, so I don't want to give an incorrect answer. So can anyone who keeps up with that development help with this question? Let's see if that comes through. I will continue to monitor that. In other words, I'll wait to see if an answer comes through, Glitch Unicorn, but I don't know that answer off the top of my head. I think the answer is yes. I know it works with the old Betaflight, with the old DJI OSD. All right. We got a couple more. Prajwal Chandari wants to know, thank you for 100 rupees. My goggles 2 is showing no SD card found, but I inserted one. Try a different SD card. Format, reinsert the SD card, try a different SD card, and then if that keeps on not working, contact DJI support. You can't format the SD card if it doesn't detect that the SD card is inserted. The people like Brandon Beans, I love you, but I think that's the wrong advice. If the goggle doesn't see the SD card, then it can't format it. Black Jungle says there is a test firmware on the KISS Ultra Discord with OSD KISS for 03 unit. So it seems like the KISS Ultra firmware does not yet support the full the full DJI 03 OSD, but it will soon. Okay. We are caught up on Super Chats. I'm so happy that my chat stream, my chat plugin is working correctly now. It's been messed up for weeks. And it's got this new queue function, That lets me keep up with super chats better. That's fantastic. Let's take this question from Zeph D. Did you do a video comparison on analog diversity module for Fat Shark goggles? A long time ago I did. If so, did it include Foxeer Wildfire? Yes. And Immersion RC Rapid Fire. Zeph D, it's been a long time since I did that test. If we search on YouTube, we could probably find where I did that test. However, firmware has changed. Has the Wildfire firmware updated? I don't know. The only analog modules I would seriously consider today, the two surefire ones are the TBS Fusion and the Immersion RC Rapid Fire. Okay. Now the Rapid Fire, what's it going for these days? Rapid Fire, $160 out of stock. Okay. TBS Fusion, I think Fusion is $120. Dang it. Let's see, $130 from TBS. This is the one to get. Fusion and Rapid Fire have approximately equal performance. Closest makes no difference. Fusion is cheaper. So get Fusion. Sorry, Immersion RC. Your price needs to come down. Anything less, I take that back. The new SkyZone module might be as good as them. I'm not sure. It's supposed to be as good as them, but I haven't tested it. It's a maybe. How much is it? See if we can find the actual new Fusion V33 board for SkyZone. Where can you buy it? Where to buy SkyZone? I don't want that though. Can I get the whole module? No. It's $30 for just the module? Oh, this goes into the goggles. What about the actual standalone module though? I mean, they have a standalone module. They sent me one to test, but I don't know where you can buy it or how much it is. So this one's a maybe. Everything else is inferior. And frankly, with analog, you need to get the best performance you can. I really think that spending $120 or $130 on a Fusion is the smart way to go. Can't use the SkyZone module outside of SkyZone goggles. Oh, are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? Because this is a standalone module that you can use outside of goggles. Oh, we got some covers. Oh, we got a whole bunch of different covers. Cute. Da, 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 da. But mostly what I wanted to show you was this. Ba-ba! Standalone. Bing gong. So but I can't find where you can actually buy that. So I'm not actually sure whether that's, I mean, it looks like retail packaging. So I don't think that's just some reviewer special that they sent only to me. So. Foxeer Wildfire is okay, but it's not as good. And with analog, you need all the help you can get. So don't spend, what does a Wildfire go for? Wildfire, no, shut up. Wildfire's $90. You could get a Fusion for $130 or Wildfire for $90. Don't even look at the Wildfire. Spend, you know, work, you know, what is it? You know, 2 more shifts at McDonald's or whatever. What is minimum wage nowadays? What are people making at McDonald's? They're making, even McDonald's is paying more than they used to. Work 1 more shift at McDonald's. Work a half a shift at McDonald's. I don't know. Just get that extra $40 and buy the Fusion. Don't buy the Wildfire. 406 FPV. SkyZone sent me that module 2 weeks ago. This is the new SkyZone receiver with the working ready mix that is supposed to actually be worth a damn. I don't know yet. I still am testing it. Okay. No, you can't buy that one from me. I need to test it. They didn't send it to me so I could sell it to you. They sent it to me so I could check it out. Okay. Oh, here it is. Eirik Toft found it. Leave it to Eirik Toft. He's the guru of all things, all products FPV. Okay, so $120. So it is possible that this could be as good as the Fusion. It is the new, updated, supposedly fixed Steady View. If that's all true, then it could be as good as Fusion as Rapid Fire. We don't know yet. The thing is, Abraham points out there are some cheap modules in the $50 range. Either buy a dog shit cheap $50 FPV module, or just bite the bullet and spend $120 or $130 on a really good one. But the Foxeer Wildfire for $90, it's not better enough to justify it. That's my opinion. All right. Super Deluxe. Always good to hear from you, Super Deluxe. Super Deluxe asks, can you sing the Do You Want to Follow song for me? No. It's going to cost you more than $10 to make me sing. And it's going to take more than this amount of whiskey. So that's going to be a thank you for your donation, Super Deluxe. Black Jungle wants to know, do you think the module I posted on Discord actually works? What module did he post on Discord, Super Deluxe? How far back do I need to go to find this module, Black Jungle? Oh, here it is on AliExpress. No, this used to be a decent module, Super Deluxe. The Eachine Pro 58, you would buy it, you would flash Achilles firmware to it, and it was really decent. As diversity modules go, it was really decent. So with analog modules, there are like different classes of performance. One of them is the very basic diversity modules. The things that define these basic modules are they use an inexpensive chip to receive or decode the signal. And it has mediocre sensitivity. And they do diversity switching. So they just look at the two antennas, and whichever one has a stronger signal, they switch to it. There are some problems with this. One of the problems is that when you switch between antennas, you get like flashing in the screen. And the other is that the switching between antennas doesn't happen like rapidly enough to compensate for all of the potential interference and garbage that you get. So more expensive modules will do two basic things to get better performance. One is they will use a better like decoder receiver chip. If I were like smarter, I would know the actual name of the chip. And it has better sensitivity. So in other words, it just is a more sensitive chip that can receive weaker signals without distortion. And obviously that's better. And the other thing they'll do is they'll do two forms of signal improvement. One of them is called sync pulse reconstruction. So an NTSC or PAL analog video signal has a sync pulse that begins every frame that is used by the display to synchronize itself with the transmitter and know when to reset and start drawing the next frame of the display, or the next frame of the video. And if that sync pulse is lost due to interference or just due to a weak signal, then the entire frame is basically lost. But what the modules that do sync pulse reconstruction will do is they will lock on to the tempo of the sync pulses, and if a sync pulse goes missing, they will generate a fake sync pulse that lets the display whatever bits of the frame came through without rolling or anything. The other thing that these goggles, so that's sync pulse reconstruction. The other thing that they'll do is they'll do frame combining, where instead of diversity switching between the left and the right, they will combine the signal from the left and the right in a meaningful way that basically takes the best parts of all of them so that you don't get the white flashes of the diversity switching, and you get a sort of a more stable, better image overall. So when you look at TBS Fusion and Immersion RC Rapid Fire, that is the two sort of main, the three things that they do. They have a more sensitive receiver chip, they do sync pulse reconstruction, and they do frame combining. And these cheaper modules don't do those things, but this Eachine module, as a basic diversity module, is pretty solid and is 1,000% worth $31. And if you manage to get the Achilles firmware on it, which, to be honest with you, I don't even know if Achilles is still made. This is all information from 4 years ago. But back in the day, when you put Achilles firmware on it, it was a really solid module for $30. 1,000% worth it. But here's the thing. The Wildfire, I don't think Wildfire does the frame combining sync reconstruction. I don't know whether it has the more sensitive receiver module on it. It says it has anti-rolling shutter technology. That suggests that it does have sync reconstruction by changing to standard diversity under low RSSI value. That suggests that it at least has sync reconstruction. I don't know if it has frame combining. But the bottom line is that when I tested it, at least, it didn't have as good performance as the Foxeer and the Rapid Fire. I mean, the Fusion and the Rapid Fire. And so I would rather pay $120 for a Fusion and get the best than pay almost $120 for the Wildfire and get something less than the best. Okay, wow. Big step back in time. RC Maniac, thank you for a $5 super chat. Just got my first drone. Your videos helped me get it running. Oh, cool. Okay, I'm sure that's the end of the question. Thank you for that. Also, the SkyZone V33 chip doesn't fix the blackout issues. Damn it. Well, sorry to hear that. Let's talk about Chris Rosser's latest video. Chris Rosser, we're probably going to cover this on the news. Chris Rosser just released a video that really impressed me. Chris Rosser's latest video goes into his latest motor testing. And similar to Wesley Vardy's video, I am not going to just play this whole thing for 30 minutes and like sit here and quote unquote react to it. Number one, because I don't think that's a good use of your time. After I go off the air, you're more than welcome to go watch this video. And don't you leave my live stream though. But I do think it's got some things in it that are worth highlighting. And first of all, Chris's test equipment is the most sophisticated FPV motor test equipment I've seen so far. And that's saying a lot because I went to Ryan Harrell's house and I saw his test rig, which was extremely impressive. But Chris is measuring RPM, he's measuring amps, he's measuring all this stuff. That's actually not the coolest part. Chris is using AM32 firmware because he's found that it has more consistent and predictable torque response. Chris, and again, you can watch the whole video if you want to know more about it, but he talks about that with many motors, the BLH32 firmware itself is limiting the performance. And so you're not actually measuring the performance of the motor. He also shows, this is brilliant. I'm going to actually play the video on this one. Check this out. So what he's doing there is he has this. So normally you test motors with a prop on them, but a prop is not necessarily going to produce consistent response. And I mean, it'll produce somewhat consistent response, but by testing with this flywheel on here, he can measure the torque and acceleration of the motor in a much more controllable way and load it down. Did you guys not hear sound? Oh, I'm sorry. The desktop was muted for that. Sorry about that, guys. Apologize. And it allows him to generate data like this. This is the torque response curve, torque versus RPM. And this is the first time I've seen anybody measure this. This is similar to a dyno for a car, where you put the car on the dyno and you spin the wheels and it measures the horsepower. This is fascinating results. It's not measuring thrust, it's measuring torque. And the beauty of that is that it separates the performance of the motor from the performance of the prop in a way. A high torque motor is going to have better response regardless of the prop. It's fascinating. In this test, the FPV Cycle 25mm motor was able to generate more torque across the RPM range, whereas in previous tests that Chris performed, it didn't show much advantage. Part of that might be because he's testing with AM32 now, and that BLH32 just couldn't make the most of that motor. And I think it's worth pointing out, like, when you see this result, some people are going to say, finally, the FPV Cycle motor is vindicated. This chart shows that the FPV Cycle motor makes more torque. It makes more torque if it's paired with an AM32 ESC. How many of you are using AM32 ESCs? Some of you. So, in a way, the motor is vindicated in that it has the potential to create more torque. Under many real-world conditions, Chris's previous result, where he concluded, it's the thing, you got to know the test conditions going in. If somebody tests a motor with an AM32 ESC and you're flying a BLH32 ESC, their results may not apply to you. So keep that in mind. Chris is validating the performance of the motors, but you may not see that performance in the real world. It's like all the car companies that do the EPA mileage testing, and they like completely rig the testing to make the mileage as high as possible, but you'll never get that in the real world, right? Still, very, very cool stuff. The Mr. Steel motor, this is the Mr. Steel Stout motor, all the way at the bottom. Some people, especially people who maybe think there are people out there who have an axe to grind with Mr. Steel. I am not one of them. First of all, I think I have a lot of respect for him. I would not go so far as to presume that we were friends, but I've hung out with him, and I think he is misjudged by a lot of people who only see his YouTube content, and that what people see in his YouTube content is very different, maybe, than what you get to see if you just hang out with him off camera. And I don't just mean, when you're, hanging out in the Rotor Riot green room. I mean, if you're at a Rampage or something and just walk up to him and talk to him, people have told me that they had that same experience. So regardless, I think there are people out there who have a little bit of a beef with him. I'm not one of them. And they want to see his equipment get taken down a peg because they don't think he deserves the amount of success that he's got. And they look at this result and they go, aha, finally, proof that I was right. His motors do suck. Look, they make no torque. Well, they certainly do make a lot less torque than the other motors there. No doubt. Like a lot less torque. There was another test. Thrust testing. They made less thrust. And Chris actually dives into this. And again, I'll let you... They overall just were at the bottom of every one of the lists. I don't know what Steele could say to respond to this. I don't know what I could say to respond to this. When a guy like Chris Rosser starts talking about your motor, like if I had a motor out there, the way that it would have been designed is I would have flown the motor. I would have worked with the manufacturer to define the specs of the motor. But I wouldn't have put it on a test stand like Chris Rosser did. I would have just flown it. And eventually we'd end up with a motor I was happy with, and we'd slap my name on it, and we'd start selling it. And if a guy like Chris Rosser comes along and says, well, I tested it on my test stand, and actually, numerically speaking, it's shit. That's my impression of Chris Rosser. No. It doesn't sound anything like him. What would I say? What, am I going to argue with him? Is Mr. Steele going to be like, oh, yeah, no, I also knew that my motor made less torque. I also have a dynamometer in my basement that I tested all these motors on. No, he doesn't. He just flies them, and he likes the way they fly, and that's the end of it. So I don't even know how somebody like Steele or me could begin to rebut. Like, there are like 5 people on the planet who know enough about motors to actually start to speak intelligently about this data. But I wonder if, like, you would say, well, the motor makes less thrust, and that means that it actually has a smoother response. It has a slower, smoother response, and it is more controllable because it makes less thrust. It's kind of got a built-in throttle cap, which gives you more fine-grained control. That's not ludicrous to say. To say, Chris Rosser starts looking at why the motors perform so differently. And he found that Mr. Steele's magnets were weaker. And he also pointed out that Mr. Steele's motor had a much larger air gap. Well, a motor with a larger air gap is going to be weaker, but it's also potentially going to be more durable. In that it has a little more room for deformation before it scrubs. So, I think anybody out there who only cares about thrust stand data, and I mean, we should care about thrust stand data more than we do. I 1000% welcome Chris Rosser's contributions to the world of FPV, because right now, 90% of the information out there about selecting motors is marketing and placebo. You can quote me on that. 90% of it is marketing and placebo, maybe 85%. And the remaining 10 or 15% is actual useful data, information backed up by data. When somebody says 28 millimeter motors are great for 7-inch props, and they're better than 2207 motors, that's like, yes, we can see that there's a big difference in the way the quad flies. But when somebody says that this 2207 motor is better than that 2207 motor because of some microscopic change, I defy you to do a blind test with two identical quads where you can tell the difference. And until you do that, it's all marketing and placebo, and I don't believe you. There's a test that's done, it's called a triangle test. And the way it works is you have three things. Like, imagine that you're a manufacturer of a soft drink and you're going to change the formula of your soft drink. And you want to make sure that your customers are not going to be able to tell that you changed the formula. So your goal is to have the customer be unable to differentiate between these two products. What you do is you take 2 of product A and 1 of product B, you put them in front of the customer, and you have them taste all 3 of them and tell you which one is the odd one out. And you do that like 30 times, 50 times, and then you get a statistically significant sample that you can tell, yes or no, people can tell the difference. Now, I don't expect people to do this with mini-quad motors, but nobody does anything remotely like this with mini-quad motors. They just fly the motor and they go, oh, so responsive, I love it. I have been guilty of this in the past, and it's part of the reason my contemplation and awareness and guilt, self-reflection about this is why you haven't seen me do a motor review in a long time where I've gone, this motor is so good. Because if I can't prove that I can even tell the difference, then how can I possibly have any credibility if I say this one's better and that one's worse in some way? And here's the thing. No one else is doing that either. Maybe racers who go out on a racetrack and have 1/10 of a second on a clock. If Alex Vanover says, I flew these motors and I flew those motors and I was 0.2 of a second faster on these motors, I believe him. Because racers are essentially doing that kind of rigorous testing. My point is this. Chris Rosser is bringing some data here where instead of being 90% marketing and placebo and 10% data, maybe we can bump that up to like 20% data. And it doesn't mean that everything there is to know about a motor is in this chart. Mr. Seal's motors make less torque and less thrust than every other motor that Chris tested. Is there something else that they do better? Maybe. But I still think it's nice to push that from like 90% marketing and hype down a little bit and to actually look at the data. And personally, the way that I'm approaching motors is I'm looking at the motors that come out on top. And I'm going, okay, I'm going to try those motors and see if I like them. Rather than doing what most people do, which is say, so-and-so pilot that I like has his name on a motor. I'm going to buy that motor. And then I'm just going to, fly whatever you want. It's your money. Fly a motor because you think you like the color. I don't really care. But acknowledge that that's why you picked the motor. I fly Cricket's motors because I like the color gold and I think Cricket's a cool dude. Hey, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't say, and also they have the best thrust, unless you have data to prove it. So. Anyway, some thoughts about that. There's a valid argument that Chris Rosser should be testing on BLHeli32 because that's what all of the rest of us use. So the AM32 testing shows the potential of the motor, but doesn't show the real world performance that we are actually going to get. Completely valid criticism. 100% true. The other thing that I would say, and this is what really kept me up at night about my battery testing, was if I test one of each battery, how valid is that? How many of each battery do I need to test before I have a statistically significant sample? And Chris Rosser is just as guilty of this, although I don't mean that as like and we should all just, shame him out of town, or he should stop doing what he's doing. I don't mean it that way. But Chris Rosser is, as far as I know, testing one of each of these motors. And therefore, the amount of variability in the manufacturing of the motors, which we know exists. Let me show you something. 1 second. Hold on. I have to find this folder. This is some testing I did of some motors that I had. And I tested the kV of the motors by spinning the motor at a measured RPM and measuring the AC volts generated by the motor. And what I found was that this is the variance in the kV of the motors. These are 4 identical motors. They're Zing 2 1800 kV motors. The actual measured kV varied from 1846 down to 1786, a variance of 60 kV, or 3%. Now, that's not a very big variance, but it is a variance. There is variance in these motors, and if you measure just one, you're not compensating for that variance. Does that mean you should just not do any testing at all? I don't know. Probably not. But it does keep me up at night thinking about that stuff. Okay. Well, hope you enjoyed that. It would be interesting to see Rosser do a test, the exact same test with BLA32, and compare the differences. Although maybe that's a little bit predictable. I love it. I love what Chris Rosser's doing. I hope he keeps doing it. We are about 7 minutes from the end of the stream. Thank you, Ciati FPV, for posting a link to your stream. Ciati's stream is going to be starting at 10 o'clock after me. And I hope you guys will head on over there and watch him stream for a while. Black Jungle, as always, bringing the quality memes. Quality memes, Black Jungle. Thank you so much for the entertaining. James Reedy says, Betaflight 4.4 took out OLED for my goggles on some builds. What does that mean? What does that mean, took out OLED? We got a couple super chats I need to take care of. Nobody Senpai asks, as an aspiring racing pilot and new community member, what's the best social hub for connecting and growing as a pilot? Nobody Senpai, I think the FPV Life Facebook group is probably a good choice. What else is good, folks? What else is good? What else is good other than FPV Life? I mean, there is, what is, damn it. I always blank on the name of this app. Hang on. It's Drone Nation. That's it. Drone Nation. You guys, I don't know if you know about Drone Nation. If not, you should. It's a social network just for FPV pilots. Am I logged into here? Why no Google login? For real? Okay. All right, fine. I to be honest with you, I don't use it a lot because I am already overwhelmed with social networks. And like, I just can't bear to bring another one. But you should use it. It's a great little social network just for drone pilots. It is related to Rotor Riot, I'm not sure the exact relationship. It was not created by Rotor Riot. It was created by, well, this guy. And then later they sort of partnered with Rotor Riot. But it's pretty cool. I don't know how much frickin' actual content it gets. Is that it? Where's the rest? Anyway, I'd like to see it become more popular, though. So I would say give it a look. We got challenges. They got a store. Oh. Anyway. Ski6 wants to know how much degradation results from right-hand TX and left-hand RX. About 3 dB. No, sorry. No. Theoretically, as that's for linear antenna. Theoretically, quite a lot. Theoretically, as much as like 15 dB. In reality, I don't seem to experience that much loss when using cross-polarized antennas. And so I wonder if the antennas are actually not as polarized as they advertise they are. But theoretically, quite a lot. Thank you, Ski6, for a $3.14 super chat. That was the super chat you got there. We got a question from Freelojo. Is there an AM32 target for your BLH32 ESC? I don't know what ESC you're talking about. I don't have a BLH32 ESC. So what ESC are you actually talking about, Freelojo? OM3N. Let's see if I can get an answer to your question in just 2 minutes remaining. In the Betaflight flasher, the hell do these things mean? OSD SD is on-screen display for analog cameras. OSD HD is on-screen display for digital cameras. Pin I/O is used to switch pins on and off. For example, if you're using a video transmitter power switcher. If you want to, you can check out my video on Pin I/O right here. Switch things on and off with your Betaflight FC Pin I/O. So search for Joshua Bardwell Pin I/O, and you can find out more about Pin I/O. Let's see. What else did you want to know about? VTX. VTX is for analog video transmitters, the VTX table. That's what VTX does. If you don't have an analog video transmitter, you don't need that. And flash is for the data flash chip that's used for black box logging. If your flight controller doesn't have a data flash chip, then I don't think you need that. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I think those things are. Hopefully that's helpful. And that is going to bring us to the end of the stream. Thank you guys so much for coming out. I've had a great time. I will not see you. Hold on, I got to look at the calendar. We're going to have an interruption in my live streams because I'm going to be going on a trip with my family. I'm going to be headed to Orlando. I'm going to be in Orlando from the 10th of February to the 14th of February, roughly. We will probably do a quads and coffee during that visit. I'm going to try to push for that, and we'll see if it happens. Obviously, it's not entirely up to me. So that would likely be on the 11th or the 12th. That is not a promise. That's just a potential. And then I'm going to be in Miami from the 15th to the maybe 19th or 20th. and I will be busy while I'm down there, but I may make some time. If anybody is in Miami and wants to do something epic, reach out. No promises, but I'd like to know what kind of possibilities there are. What that means is that there will not be a live stream next Sunday or Monday. Probably we will do the news on the 7th because I hate to miss the news. And I will be in town. And then there will be no live streams until probably the next one will be the 26th. So most of February there won't be live streams. But every so often I go on my wife is like, hey, we're going on a trip. Are you going to be going with us? And I'm like, do I want to be the kind of father and husband who just says, no, honey, I have to work. You take the kids to Miami without me. And then I'm like, no. These guys can live without live streams for a couple of weeks. So, that is gonna. I'll keep you updated. For now, that's gonna do it. Good night, everybody, and happy flying always.